See on the 7 life-saving signs your body sends before a heart attack that most seniors ignore. Let me tell you about a Tuesday morning that I still think about. Margaret was 67 years old, a retired school teacher from Savannah, Georgia. Sharp woman. Read constantly, volunteered at her church library, grew tomatoes in her backyard. Her daughter had called her at 8 a.m., and they'd talked for 45 minutes. Nothing unusual, just the ordinary warmth between a mother and her child. At 9:15, Margaret felt tired. Not tired like she hadn't slept enough. Tired in a way she'd never felt before, like someone had unplugged something deep inside her. She sat down on her kitchen chair. She thought about calling someone. She didn't want to make a fuss. She told herself she'd see how she felt after lunch. She never made it to lunch. I've been practicing emergency medicine for 32 years. I've worked in trauma centers in Atlanta, Chicago, and Houston, and I can tell you without hesitation that the single most dangerous moment in a cardiac event isn't the attack itself. It's the 10, 20, 30 minutes before anyone does anything. Those quiet minutes when a person sits alone and talks themselves out of getting help. Margaret's heart was sending her signals, clear ones. Her body was doing everything right. She just didn't know how to read the language. That's why we're here today. Because after this, you will. Here's what I need you to understand first. Heart attacks do not always arrive like a scene from a movie. There's no dramatic collapse, no clutching of the chest in most cases. In fact, the research published by the American Heart Association shows that nearly 50% of people who die from a cardiac event do so before they ever reach a hospital. 50%. That's not a statistic that should make you afraid. That's a statistic that should make you angry, and then informed. Because the vast majority of those deaths involve warning signs that started hours, sometimes days before the final event. Signs that, if recognized and acted on, change everything. I want to go through 7 of them with you today, not in a medical textbook way, in the way I would talk to my own mother, sitting across from her at her kitchen table, making sure she understood every word. Because the people who know these signs, who have really internalized them, they survive at dramatically higher rates. We're talking about a survival advantage that some studies, including work published in the European Heart Journal, put as high as 40 to 50% better outcomes. That's not a small number. That's the difference between making it and not. So let's start with the one that surprises people the most, and it surprises them because it has almost nothing to do with the chest. Unusual fatigue, and I want to be very specific about what I mean by unusual. This isn't the fatigue of a bad night's sleep or a long afternoon in the garden. This is a fatigue that feels different in quality. Patients have described it to me as heavy, as boneless, as like my body stopped belonging to me. In the days leading up to a heart attack, the heart muscle, which is working harder than it should because blood flow is being compromised by a narrowing artery, begins to pull energy away from the rest of the body. Think of it like a city experiencing a power shortage. The grid starts dimming the lights in the neighborhoods furthest from the power station first. Your extremities, your general energy reserves, those go first. The heart is trying to protect itself, and the rest of you feels it. Now here's what people do wrong. They lie down, they rest. And if they feel a little better after resting, they tell themselves it was nothing. But listen, if that profound, unusual tiredness comes on without clear explanation, especially if it's accompanied by anything else on this list, that is your body sending an emergency broadcast. You do not wait to see if it passes. You acknowledge it. You pay attention to what comes next. Robert, a 71-year-old retired mechanic from El Paso, came into my ER on a Friday afternoon. He'd been tired for 3 days. The kind of tired, he told me, that made lifting his coffee mug feel like an effort. His wife had pushed him to come in. He'd resisted. I didn't want to waste anyone's time, he said. We caught a significant blockage in his left anterior descending artery, one of the most critical vessels in the heart, before it caused a full infarction. His cardiologist told him afterward that he'd probably had about another 12 hours before a major event. His wife's insistence and his willingness to finally come in saved his life. One hour. The second sign I want you to know about is jaw, neck, or upper back pain with no obvious cause. I know. I know what you're thinking. That doesn't sound like a heart problem, and that's exactly why it gets ignored. Here's the physiology. The heart and certain pain, pathways in the body share nerve roots. When the heart muscle is under stress, the brain sometimes can't pinpoint exactly where the signal is coming from, so it interprets the pain in areas that share those pathways. The jaw, the left arm, the upper back between the shoulder blades, the base of the neck. Doctors call this referred pain, and it's one of the most consistently missed warning signs, particularly in women over 60. I had a patient, Eleanor, 68, from Phoenix, who came in convinced she had a dental emergency. Her lower left jaw had been aching for 2 days. She'd already called her dentist. I happened to be the attending who caught her in triage, noticed she was also slightly short of breath, and ran an EKG. She was having what we call a silent myocardial infarction, heart damage occurring without the classic chest pain. Without that EKG, she would have gone home to wait for her dental appointment. The lesson: any unexplained pain in your jaw, neck, upper back, or left shoulder that you can't trace to a physical cause, a fall, a muscle strain, a dental procedure, that warrants a call, not next week, that day. Now, the third sign is one I feel genuinely passionate about sharing, because it's the one that has the most room for intervention. And this is where I'll ask you, if this information is helping you, please share this video with someone you love. Send it to your sister, your neighbor, the friend from church who lives alone. This could be the most important thing they watch this year. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, because we talk about this stuff here, and your life is worth 20 seconds of your time. The third sign is shortness of breath at rest. Not from climbing stairs, not from rushing across the parking lot, just sitting, just lying in bed, just existing. When the heart muscle starts to struggle, fluid can begin to back up into the lungs, a condition called pulmonary congestion, and the lungs respond by making breathing feel labored and insufficient. Patients often describe this as not being able to get a full breath, like something is pressing on their chest from the inside. Some people notice it most when they lie flat at night and find they need to prop themselves up with extra pillows just to breathe comfortably. Here's what I want you to hear. This sign in isolation can feel minor. It can feel like anxiety, like getting older, like just how things are now. Please don't accept that. Unexplained shortness of breath at rest, especially if it's new or getting worse over days, is your body asking urgently for someone to look at your heart. George, 74, a widower from Tucson who loved desert hiking, noticed it for 4 days. He assumed it was the heat. He assumed it was altitude. He assumed a lot of things before his neighbor, who'd watched a video very much like this one, sat him down and said, "George, I'm driving you to urgent care right now." The echocardiogram showed his heart was operating at a fraction of its normal capacity. He needed intervention immediately. He's still hiking, more slowly, but he's hiking. The fourth sign is nausea or indigestion that feels different. Indigestion is common. I understand that. And I'm not suggesting that every episode of heartburn needs an EKG. But what I want you to know is that the vagus nerve, a long, important nerve that runs from your brainstem all the way down through your chest and abdomen, is closely connected to both the digestive system and the heart. When the heart is in distress, this nerve can trigger nausea, stomach upset, or a sensation that patients often describe as something sitting heavy in the chest, like I ate something wrong. The critical distinction is context. If you feel nauseous and your chest feels strange, and you're also more tired than usual, and your jaw has felt off for 2 days, that combination is not indigestion. That is your body trying to tell you something in every language it knows. Time is muscle. I'll say that again because I need you to carry it with you. Every minute that blood flow to the heart is compromised, approximately 1 million heart muscle cells die. Those cells don't grow back. The damage is permanent, but the damage is also stoppable with fast action. Every 10 minutes you save by recognizing these signs early represents real, measurable preservation of your heart muscle. This isn't abstract. This is the physical architecture of your survival. The fifth sign is swelling in the feet, ankles, or legs. what we call edema. When the heart isn't pumping efficiently, fluid accumulates in the lowest points of the body due to gravity. You might notice your shoes feeling tighter in the afternoon, your ankles looking puffier than normal. Pressing your finger into your shin and seeing the impression stay for a few seconds after you lift it. This particular sign is often associated with heart failure, a condition where the heart is weakened enough that it can't keep up with the body's demands, and it can precede a major cardiac event, particularly in people who haven't yet been diagnosed with any heart condition. Now, swelling alone has many causes. Standing too long, medication side effects, hot weather. But again, it's the combination that matters. Swelling plus unusual fatigue plus shortness of breath at rest is a medical conversation that needs to happen today. Not next week, today. If you notice these three together in yourself or someone you love, that is a reason to call your doctor, or if it's evening or weekend and they're not available, to go in and get checked. The sixth sign is one of the most emotionally difficult to talk about, and it's an overwhelming sense of doom or dread. Patients have described this to me more times than I can count. A feeling that something is terribly wrong with no rational explanation for it. A certainty that this is it. Medical literature actually documents this as a real physiological response. When the heart is under severe stress, the body releases a surge of stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, that can produce this profound psychological sensation. It is your nervous system sounding an alarm. And I want to say this very directly. If you or someone you love ever says, "I have a feeling something is really wrong with me," please take that seriously. Not as anxiety, not as catastrophizing, as a signal. I've sat with patients who said, almost embarrassed, "Doctor, I know this sounds crazy, but I thought I was going to die." They were right. Their body knew before any machine did. Trust that. Honor it. Here's the thing about hesitation. It's completely human. You don't want to overreact. You don't want to sit in an emergency waiting room for 4 hours over what turns out to be heartburn. You don't want to worry your family. You don't want to call 911 and feel foolish if nothing is wrong. I have heard every version of this reasoning, and I understand all of it. But I need you to hear me on this. Paramedics and emergency room physicians would 1,000 times rather see you and send you home reassured than not see you and lose you. A false alarm costs you an afternoon. A missed heart attack costs you everything. And this brings me to the seventh sign, which isn't a symptom of the body, but a behavior of the mind. And it may be the most important one. It's called minimization, and it's what Margaret was doing in her kitchen chair in Savannah. It's what most people do. You feel something wrong, your body is speaking clearly, and your mind, trying to protect you from fear, tries to explain it away. "I'm just tired because of the heat. My jaw hurts because I've been clenching at night. I'm short of breath because I'm out of shape." These explanations feel rational, they feel calm, and they are, in the language of emergency medicine, a survival risk. The intervention for minimization isn't courage, it's preparation. It's having thought before the moment arrives about what you will do. Right now, I want to suggest 3 things you can do today. First, make sure someone knows where you are when you're home alone. A daily check-in call, a neighbor who has a key. Second, keep a regular dose aspirin, 325 milligrams, accessible in your home, and know where it is. Aspirin, chewed rather than swallowed, gets into the bloodstream faster and can help slow the clotting process during a cardiac event. Aspirin isn't swallowed during a suspected heart attack. It's chewed. That distinction matters. Third, make sure your front door can be unlocked from the outside if paramedics need to reach you. A lock box with a spare key or simply an unlocked door has saved lives in ways that seem almost unbearably simple. But that simplicity is exactly the point. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you something. Drop a comment and tell me, do you keep aspirin at home? Because I genuinely want to know. And if you don't, maybe today is the day to pick some up. Here's what I need you to leave here knowing. Your body is not your enemy. Even when it's struggling, it is trying to communicate with you. It is sending signals, sometimes for days before a major cardiac event, that something needs attention. The problem has never been that our bodies don't warn us. The problem is that we haven't learned the language. And that's not your fault. Nobody sat you down and taught you this. Until now. Unusual fatigue that feels different from anything you felt before. Jaw, neck, or upper back pain with no clear cause. Shortness of breath at rest. Nausea that feels cardiac rather than digestive. Swelling in the legs and ankles. An overwhelming sense that something is wrong. And the quiet, dangerous instinct to talk yourself out of getting help. 7 signs. 7 places where action changes the outcome. 7 moments where knowledge is the difference between what happened to Margaret and what happened to George. Survival isn't luck. It's preparation. And you have just made yourself measurably more prepared than you were 20 minutes ago. Your future self and the people who love you are better off because you watch this today. Please share this with someone, an older parent, a neighbor who lives alone, a friend who always says, "Oh, I'm fine." This video could be the most important thing they see this year. And if you learned something today, if something here changed how you'll think about what your body's telling you, I hope you'll come back. Because this work, this conversation, this attempt to get life-saving knowledge to the people who need it most, that is exactly why I'm here. Take care of yourself. And if something feels wrong, please don't wait.